beyond achievement and into impact? Welcome to Legacy Her Way, the podcast where we explore how women define and build legacy on their own terms. Hi, I'm Tanya Hendricks, your host, and legacy isn't just about what we leave behind someday. It's about the choices we're making right now, who we're building for, what we're building and preserving, and how we create peace of mind and margin, or harmony, as I like to call it now, along the way. Today's conversation with Dr. Jennie Robinson brings a story shaped by service and leadership and governance to make Huntsville and communities beyond a better place. So whether you're listening while driving, folding laundry, taking a quiet moment for yourself, I hope you hear something in this conversation that resonates with you, maybe reflects your own journey, but gives you a chance to pause and realize that if she can do it, I can do it too. So let's get this conversation started with Dr. Jennie Robinson. Dr. Robinson is on the Huntsville City Council, but she's not just on the council, she's the council president at this time as we're recording in 2026. She was first elected to serve on the Huntsville City Council for District 3 in 2014 after serving 3 terms on the Board of Education for the city of Huntsville. She is only the second person in Huntsville city history, second woman, in the history of Huntsville, to serve as council president. She received her doctorate from Purdue University and has over 20 years of leadership and governance consulting experience as the owner of her own consulting firm or consulting company. But she has also served as the executive director of a private foundation. She's been on multiple boards in the city of Huntsville, volunteering her time with nonprofits. She served 5 times as a PTA president and is an honorary member of the Alabama PTA. She received the Leadership Huntsville Madison County's Distinguished Leadership Award. And she was also, if you're familiar with WEDC, Women's Economic Development Council, she was honored by them as a woman honoring woman, or the award is called Women Honoring Women. Dr. Robinson is married to Dr. Michael Robinson, and they have 5 children. So, Dr. Robinson, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Tanya.
Yeah, so that was just a brief mouthful of introduction about Dr. Robinson, and I cut down some of her achievements just because we would have filled the entire podcast with everything that Dr. Robinson has done. So I am quite honored that you're here and joining us today on Legacy Her Way. And I'm fascinated with the history that you have, that some of it I mentioned, some of it I didn't. You received your PhD in consumer behavior. You taught classes in market research, consumer behavior. You became an expert in the field of why people buy, which as a small business owner doing marketing, that's fascinating to me. But you also helped, after you became that expert on why people buy, you started helping customer service providers better understand the customer experience from the customer's perspective, which is unique. With those achievements, you achieved all of that in your career, and I'm not sure the time frame of when you started really working with the Board of Education as far as your career is concerned, but with those achievements and the career that you've had with the service to Huntsville, the Huntsville community, not just in governance, but to the different boards that you've served on, I want to start with this first question. When did you first start thinking beyond achievement in the world of consumer behavior and into impact on the community?
I think it actually happened while I was teaching at university. I've taught 3 universities. As I started working with my students, that it became more than just sharing information. It was really about, I became involved in learning more about their lives and some of the challenges that they had and helping direct them to their futures. So it was more than just passing the class or getting the degree. It was, how will this really impact your life? And I loved having those conversations with them. And I continue to have those conversations then with others in the community. And as I raised 5 kids, there was really that desire to not just check something off the list or check the box, but to really make a difference in how people experience their lives.
What caused you then to make that jump? So you're impacting students' lives in the classroom, you're getting their feedback, and you're presumably giving them some advice and encouragement and mentorship along the way. But what was it that sparked your desire to then go into public service? Was the Board of Education the first leap you made into public service, elected public service?
So I will tell you, well, we're going to go back to my senior year of high school, where I decided to run for student body secretary. And I lost the election to one of my best friends, and I swore I would never, ever run for anything ever again, had no interest in doing that at all. Well, then I have 5 kids who all deserve to be embarrassed equally. So I ran 5 times for PTA president. And in the course of doing that, I was also involved with the Alabama PTA, became really aware of education issues. And so in the course of doing that, I was in leadership Huntsville at the time, and we were in Birmingham. I remember this clearly at a retreat, and there was a yellow piece of legal paper going around the room, and people were signing it. And I'm not thinking much about it because we sign stuff all the time there. And it comes to me, and it's a yellow, this piece of yellow legal paper where some Joanne Randolph, who used to run BizTech and the Women's Business Center, at the top had written, "All in favor, Jennie Robinson running for the Huntsville School Board, sign below." And so there were 40 some signatures on there of people who were well known in the community and who said, "This is something you need to think about." And I kind of laughed about it, dismissed it. And then someone came to me, and he was actually serving on the school board at the time. I had worked on his campaign, and he said, "I'm not going to do this again, and you need to get ready." And I kept thinking about that yellow piece of paper with all those signatures on it. And I thought, this is something I just maybe really need to do. Prayed about it a lot and felt this sense of, this is something I need to do. And so I ran, and it was an incredible miracle. So it's a vacant seat, which doesn't happen very often. I ran unopposed.
Oh, wow.
Which was wild. It was absolute. I had put all these signs out and gotten all these people to work on the campaign. And then when it came to qualifying, nobody else qualified. So that was the one of 2 times I've been able to run unopposed. And it is really the best way to run. So it was really just the encouragement of a lot of good people, and the opportunity coming together at the right time.
As you were talking about that, I wrote it down in my notes, just kind of a full circle moment. I mean, here you were mentoring young people, speaking life into their lives, giving them encouragement. And then it took others who were your peers, but became mentors to you and spoke life into you, encouraging you along this route. So that was really a great little full circle moment there.
Well, the encouragement, and that it was this sense of, somebody may actually vote for me. At least these 40 people would. So yeah, having that encouragement, you're right. It was a full circle sort of thing.
Was there a belief, and maybe you just said that because we had 40 people who believed in you, but was there a belief about yourself that had to change for this new version to exist?
Oh, yes. 100%, because I had gone from, I will never run for anything ever again in my life. I mean, that was a really hard memory, when you're, a senior in high school and people choose someone else. It's not a happy memory at all. And so I had to then start to believe in myself. And I also had to change, I had to learn some things. So I learned very quickly. It was maybe 3 weeks into service on the school board when I had a very unexpected and very uncomfortable conversation with a fellow board member. And I remember I was just really, really upset about it, and talking to my husband about it. And he said, "Well, isn't this what you chose? And isn't politics what you chose?" And I said, I don't want to be a politician. I want to be a public servant. And he said, "Well, you can be a one-term public servant, or you can learn to be a politician." And that was something I had to learn to do, how to navigate that world that I had never been in before, and to have enough confidence to do that, and then not to take things personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I have had people before, because we've had some very challenging council meetings over the course of the last year. I've had people who say, I watched you at that council meeting and I don't see how you can just sit there and take all of that. And that's something I had to learn to do. So there's also confidence, and also a sense of not taking yourself too seriously, or the other person, or just realizing that, this is just the way some things work. And I, I, I came back a lot to, in the scripture talks about being wise and harmless.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to be wise. I want to understand how all of the political stuff works, but not to engage in that, or
Mm-hmm.
to engage in conflict, but not contention. So finding that ability to find what was right or that perspective of what's right for me, and how do I want to live my life and still accomplish the goals that I want to accomplish, but do it in a way that I can feel good about.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long answer to a short question.
But it was an excellent answer. I mean, filled with a lot of wisdom, as you have sought out to have wisdom. And yes, you want to be wise as serpents, but it's innocent as
And
doves.
harmless as dove.
Yes, yes. And so, and I've used that quite a bit in my life as an attorney. Sometimes you
Yeah,
have to be
there
that
you
way.
go. It's the same thing.
Yes, I'm curious because we live in such a contentious society right now. And I've talked to other politicians who are on both sides of the aisle, and they get along great. And I just don't think a lot of the public understands. I don't. Let me just not go there. I'm gonna go on that soapbox, but I do want to ask, how is it, like, practically? What practical steps did you take to get to that point where you can engage in conflict but not contention? Like, how can you have these civil dialogues to further your goals and your purpose, and frankly, the purposes of the city and the goals of the city, without being so contentious?
So it was a course of learning by experience. A lot of it was this was a world that was foreign to me, and so I spent just learning a lot by experience, which is probably the hardest way to learn anything. And then I also did a lot of studying on my own. I've recently, in fact, in the past year, have read a lot about peacemaking
Mhm.
and how to be a peacemaker in a very divided, contentious society. There's a really good book by Arthur C. Brooks that was very influential for changing my perspective, to realize that you can be in conflict and intentionally choose to face conflict without being contentious.
Mhm.
Someone, since I've been council president, one of the city directors came to me after a meeting. He said, "I finally have figured out your strategy. You're killing them with kindness." And and I thought that's an interesting way to look at it. But I guess if it works, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and it also takes a great deal of humility. That was the other thing I had to learn, was you have to be humble enough to listen and see, maybe they're right. Maybe
Mhm.
there is something I can learn here.
Mhm.
But I think in the end, it really came down to, okay, there's obviously some things here we are going to have to agree to disagree on.
Right.
But I think there are some things we can agree on. So this is our focus. This is what we want to accomplish. We have disagreement about how we get there.
Yes.
So let's talk about how we get there. I understand this is how you feel. This is how I feel. How can we work toward the middle to be able to accomplish what needs to be done? Now, the other piece I've had to learn is I don't ever compromise on principle. That was something I really couldn't do. And when that happens, then you just have to walk away.
Correct. Yeah. And I do think people need to understand that we often have the same goal. Like, for example, you're on the city of Huntsville council. So the goal is to advance the city of Huntsville, to do what's best for the city of Huntsville. But people have different ways, people have different ideas of how that works.
Absolutely.
But I think if we can focus on, we have the same common goal. That's where I've tried to talk to people when they're with all the contention in society. Like, we all basically want the same thing. It's just we had different ideas of how to get there.
Yeah.
Well, with what you have accomplished through the city of Huntsville, through Leadership Huntsville, I know you were that honoree for Leadership Greater Huntsville and the honoree for WEDC's Women Honoring Women, you have already built such a legacy. But what does legacy or success mean or look like in your life right now?
So legacy, I think we think of it frequently as leaving an inheritance, a gift of some kind. It could be a body of work that someone leaves behind. And I think certainly with the work that I've done with the city, I would love people to look back on the San Ramon Complex or the work at Hayes Farm or the Greenway system or City Hall, even for that. I love giving people tours of City Hall. It's just an amazing building.
It is amazing. If you've never been, please go visit.
Yeah, so that could be legacy. I hope that the legacy I leave will be an example of service and righteous influence. And I think another legacy is my 5 kids. I am incredibly proud of them. Every one of them has very unique challenges, some more than others, but they're all just really good, solid people, and people who love each other. I was telling my husband that when we had all of them together a while ago, it was like they actually really like being together, and that's a great thing. That's a great thing to see. So, when I think of legacy, it's the gifts we leave behind, not necessarily temporal gifts. They may be just that gift of impact and influence and a life well lived.
Well, and if you had to choose one thing, and I think you have demonstrated that you have lived a good life, that you have lived well, you've honored your commitment to service, you've been that example of service and righteous influence. But I'm wondering if there's one thing that you had to point to that you're the most proud of accomplishing as a city councilwoman, what would that one thing be? If you can narrow it down to one thing.
Connections that I have been able to, I have used my connections to connect others, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That and to build something better, to build a better community, to build a better South Huntsville as a whole, and working in partnership with others, working in partnership with Commissioner Phil Riddick to do the work that we've done at the San Ramon Complex, at Ditto Landing, with the Greenway system, working with others to start the South Huntsville, Maine Business Association that helped us get through the overpasses and help the businesses survive, and now continues to help to promote businesses and to build the environment. So it's not like there's one thing. It's just the whole that whole system of getting people to work together.
And that in of itself is quite the legacy, to be able to connect people, to get people to work together for the betterment of the community. I know you are District 3 in Huntsville, which, if you're not familiar with the districts, that's South Huntsville. And you have done a tremendous job in South Huntsville. I live in South Huntsville. I work in South Huntsville. That's where my office is. And so you've done just a tremendous job with helping the businesses in South Huntsville. And I certainly appreciate that. And what you continue to do to help revitalize, or I don't think revitalize is correct.
No, revitalize is a real good word. The paint was peeling.
Yeah.
The paint was peeling, and we were very aware of that. And we knew it was not going to get better unless we started to make some really intentional efforts and talked about what's it going to take to change this. We knew Hayes Farm at Hazeland Square, the dilapidated 30-year vacant strip center, was not going to get any better on its own unless we took some drastic action there. And the Hayes family really stepped up and took care of that. And that was sort of the pebble in the pond. And then the ripples started out from that. People needed to have hope that it was possible to stop the decline and start to make things better. And now we're seeing that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was real important.
Legacy Her Way is proudly sponsored by Huntsville Estate Planning Lawyer because legacy isn't just about wealth, it's about protecting your family, your vision, and everything you've worked for. Build boldly, preserve it wisely. Well, and all that work to give people the hope and to revitalize South Huntsville takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy. You mentioned already that you have 5 children, and so you've been married, you've raised 5 children, you've had a career, you are serving in different nonprofits, you
It
serve.
makes me sound like I'm crazy. That's a lot to take on.
It is. So where did you find the harmony? How did you do all the things? And like I said earlier, I like to use the term harmony rather than balance or margin, because I think when you have all these balls in the air, you've got the competing interest. Where do you find the harmony in all of that to continue to raise good humans, good citizens, and give of yourself to the community?
So it comes down to being incredibly intentional. So I practice what I call intentional caretaking. So I do a lot of caregiving. I spent 6 years taking care of my mother and my intellectually disabled sister in Texas, and then my intellectually disabled sister has now come to live with me. So I do a lot of caregiving, but I think caretaking makes caregiving possible. And so caretaking means taking care of myself. So there are some really intentional choices I make about taking care of my physical self and my spiritual self and my mental self. But then in addition to that, I've also learned to intentionally say no. And that was really, really hard when you're naturally a caregiver and you want to take care of things, you want to fix people's problems, and being able to very intentionally and kindly say no to some choices helps build some space for recovery, and also to be mindful of what's next and what do I want to bring into my life, what builds my energy and what saps my energy. And whether it's an activity, a lot of the activities I get invited to are just show up. And I've learned that a lot of the just show up, stand around, talk to people, go home, doesn't build energy, and it's not necessarily going to help me do what I need to do the next day or the next hour that really does matter. And so being able to see what's nice and what's necessary, what brings me joy and what bores me to tears and doesn't build energy, though it's defining those and then making choices in line with that has been really critical. And I've finally, and it's taken a while, again, learning by experience, that I have to make those choices even when it's hard.
And it's probably even hard. I know you don't like the term politician, but you are. It's probably difficult.
I'm a public servant working in a political environment.
Yes, great way to put it. But in that sense, I mean, it's probably more difficult for you to say no because you do rely on votes. I mean, to stay in your office.
Right. And so that has to be part of the margin. In fact, this year is an election year. So I may be doing a lot of those show up events because it helps me get to that final goal. But if I'm showing up just to show up, then that's, and I will also ask myself, will they miss me? And if I know that they will not miss me, then that right away becomes a hallmark for me of, do I go or don't I go?
Well, and I want to say, I mean, for listeners of the show, if you listen to season 1, the saying no was a common theme. I mean, just about every single episode when I had a guest, she talked about learning to say no and how important that was to building the career, building the family, whatever it may be. Because I think it is hard for women in particular to say no to things, as we do tend to want to please and we want to take care of people, as you mentioned. And so I think it's that you're saying, that you're telling us now, again, learn to say no I think it's just critical and vital for us as we're growing in our careers, family, faith, whatever it may be.
Well, and it's not just saying no. I came across. I'm a big Stephen Covey fan, and I'm. It's like back in the day, Stephen Covey was a thing. I don't know if he even is anymore
He
now.
still is, yes.
But he said, you can't say yes until you have said no. So it's not just about saying, no, I won't go do that. It's,
Sure.
I'm going to go do this. And this is, here's a goal that's really important to me. In order to do that, I have to say no, even to some things I would really like to do.
Yeah.
And choosing between what's better and what's best is sometimes a really hard choice to make. I don't have trouble saying no to an event if I know nobody's going to miss me and it would be not something I'm interested in. That's easy. But to say, do I go to my child's soccer game or do I go to this meeting? Those are hard.
Yeah.
And which one do I? So I'm going to say yes to this because in the long run, I think this is going to matter more. That becomes to me a better way to try and deal with that challenge.
Mm-hmm. So this leads us back to, you mentioned you are intentional. You got to be intentional with caretaking. What does that actually look like? Do you schedule? Is that part of your schedule? Like you say, from this time to this time, that's blocked off for exercise, walking, meditation, whatever it may be?
Yep, all of the above. So it goes beyond scheduling to habit. That I can, even though I knew we were going to be doing this morning, I tend. Oh, by the way, I protect my mornings. I really protect my mornings. I generally don't start anything outside of my home until 9 o'clock. So here we are, and it's
Thank
before
you.
9 o'clock.
Thank
But I'm making that choice. But my mornings are sacred time for me. So I will start every morning by walking. My body, my mind just need that time to walk. And I have this whole walking process thing that I go through that makes it particularly meaningful and helpful to me. But I do my walk, I come home, I do scripture study, I have really intentional prayer time. I will during the day also take a pause for meditation and also in the evening, just to stay centered and grounded and to get out of the craziness for a while. I found the afternoon one, because how can I take time out of a busy day to do this? It actually increases my productivity and energy by about 3 hours.
Wow.
It's crazy. It is crazy. You invest that little half hour, you get 3 hours out of it.
Wow.
And so that is a very intentional choice that I make. And so if I can do all that, a gratitude journal. I have a particular gratitude journal that I really like. So having that gratitude time is also a really, really good thing. So just doing those simple practices of caretaking, sleep is also really important. I got myself an Aura ring.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, and it has made such a tremendous difference in knowing how my body works and what my body needs, and my body apparently needs sleep. And so that has become a real priority.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, your kind of routine with us, because I want women who listen to this podcast to get some real advice. And when they hear someone like you who has accomplished so much, who does so much, like, how does she do it? So how does she do it? So how can I do it? Even me personally, I'm in this time of my life where I'm trying to find harmony, because I've been building a small business, and anyone who's built a small business knows it's a lot of time and effort. And trying to find that harmony between all the things, finding time to sleep and with family and do all those things. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, so that, and me specifically, so that I can, I understand the value of blocking time, but then that importance of making it the priority, of making sure you guard that time so that you can take care of yourself, so you can take care of others, because I think that's important.
Well, and that happens to be the routine that I follow that works for me, but somebody else may find something totally different that works for them. And I think that's the thing. You've got to find what does it mean to take care of myself so I can then give care to others? It's going to be very different for different people.
That's true, but I think hearing someone talk about being very intentional about setting that time, whether it's time in the morning, whether it's walking versus running versus working out with weights versus meditation,
Yoga.
yoga. Yeah, I just
I
think,
love my yoga time.
yeah, I think it's just a matter of people hearing that, okay, she does all these things in her life, but she guards this time for herself, whether it's, in the morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it may be. It's just, we have to guard that time. We have to be intentional about taking care of ourselves.
And it is okay to do that. And you don't have to feel guilty about it. That was another really important lesson for me to learn.
That is so true. And I think with you saying that coming from your heart as a public servant and your experience working in public service, I think that's important for people to hear that don't feel guilty about taking time for yourself. That is, I think, for women and moms in particular, that's probably one of the hardest things to do is,
It's
yes, not feel guilty about taking care of yourself over doing some other things that could be, helpful or good. As you mentioned, that you have to choose between sometimes good and a little bit better. Not
good, better, and best.
good, better, and best. Yes.
The old Sears catalog value standard.
I think most of our listeners are going to remember the Sears catalog. Yes, that's a good analogy. So, what is something? Well, let me ask this: what belief, what value, or what lesson do you most hope to pass on, whether it's to your children, grandchildren, or the community?
My faith is really important to me, and I think all my kids know that. But then it's one thing to believe and another to act. And so turning that belief into action through service. When you serve other people, you are serving God. And so I hope that is what I have passed on. My husband is notoriously, he's a rocket scientist. I mean, he's like a for real rocket scientist. And he fits every stereotype everybody ever has. He could be on Big Bang and he would fit right in with those guys. So he's impossible to buy anything for. And so actually a couple of my daughters have taken to, when they're going to give him a gift for Christmas or his birthday, they will go out and do some kind of active service. The other one finds crazy organizations to donate money to. Anyway, so they've learned that. They've learned that that's important to both he and to me. And so they're building that life of service. One of my daughters, my second daughter, has had when she was 8 years old, she had a lung removed.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, we had like the stuff that was growing in the lungs started going other places. So she had other parts of her heart removed and everything. All kinds of time at Children's Hospital and physical stuff going on. But she has now become the caregiver for my sister who has come to live with us.
Oh, wow.
And so that service that we've hired her. So, but she is there when we need her and helping to take her places, to doctor's appointments, to her day programs, to whatever. And it has given her a set, after all these years of being cared for, she's now the caregiver.
Nice.
And that has been so neat to see her following that sense of service in caring for Claire. It's been a blessing to us, but I think it's been, and to Claire, but it's been a blessing to her as well. Yeah. So seeing that desire to serve and how service benefits both the giver and the receiver, I think has been a good thing to see in her life. So I hope that's what all of my children eventually will see.
Well, I think it's neat that you are seeing your legacy played out in front of you. Like you are able to see that.
Oh, it is. It's cool.
Happen. Yeah. Well, I have asked a lot of questions today, but is there anything that you want to share with the listeners? Most of our listeners are in the Huntsville area. Most are going to be women. is there any knowledge or wisdom or anything else that you want to leave with our listeners?
Um, I think Huntsville is just such a terrific and unique community. So many people come here and are just amazed at not just what we've accomplished as a community, the changes that are happening, but just the sense of community that is
Mhm.
here. So I guess I would just say to anybody who's listening, if you want to be part of that community, to contact me, and I can find all kinds of ways to connect you. The city of Huntsville appoints to over 60 different boards, commissions, authorities. If you have an interest in serving, we can plug you in. There is a way to make that happen, because it takes all of us working together to create this wonderful sense of community. And if anybody wants to do a tour of City Hall, I also do tours of City Hall, so let me know about that. And if you got a pothole that needs to be paved, or drainage that's not working, roads, ditches, and garbage are kind of my thing. So you can let me know about that too.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Robinson. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining us today. And as a transplant to Huntsville, I've been here since 2017. Love it. And love what I mean, you've been on the city council for 12 years now,
Mhm.
going on 12 years. And so you have been a part of a lot of the major growth happening here. And it's just exciting to see what's happening, what's already happened since I've been here, but also what's happening in the future. And you certainly have a major part of that. You have cemented your legacy with the city of Huntsville. I know you mentioned the Sandra Moon Complex, Ditto Landing. For those of you listening,
Greenway system, that's been another
Greenway
big thing.
system, if you have not visited, I know Sandra Moon is still in progress, but if you have not visited the South Huntsville Library, which is tremendous, Ditto Landing, I go there often. A lot of times I'm at Ditto Landing, and the Greenways in South Huntsville. I mean, you're missing out. So head down to South Huntsville, shop. We've got some great restaurants. We've got some wonderful shops. Obviously, a wonderful law firm is here in Huntsville, in South Huntsville. So I do appreciate all that you have done to help those of us in South Huntsville and in the city of Huntsville as a whole. So thank you
Well,
so much for joining us today.
thank
Legacy
you.
Her
Thank you
Way.
for the work you're doing too.
Well, thank you. And so, in closing, if this episode spoke to you, be sure to subscribe to Legacy Her Way so you don't miss an episode. So, just go to the subscribe button and subscribe. And then we'll see you in the next conversation. Thank y'all for listening.
Thank you, Tanya.